everybody. Welcome back to the Sew Off Kilter Podcast. I'm Sew Becca.
And I'm Ian. And spoiler alert, y'all have made this a hit so far.
Yeah, I feel like we should just give up on our other channels because they just want us on the podcast. Awkward silence.
Yeah, we should totally do that.
If you haven't noticed, we have some new equipment with us tonight. We decided to take a splunge on a
Splunge?
A splunge. A splurge.
Are we going to have to start Becca-isms?
Yeah,
Is that going to be a new segment that we have?
Spam the comments with splunge. Oh, gosh. Oh, and here we go with the snorting. We decided to splurge and buy some new equipment. So Amazon had, what did they call it? Amazon Prime Days? Is that what that was?
Yes, Prime Day.
Prime
which
Days.
is now like, what, 5 times a year, I think?
Something like that. It used to be once a year. Now it's like every other weekend.
Yeah.
But they had Prime Day, and these microphones were half off, which meant kind of like buy one, get one free. So, duh, we bought 2.
And since there's 2 of us,
it worked out perfectly. Yep. And I already had some of the other equipment to get these plugged in and do all the things. And we've done test runs with the microphone. So I'm hoping that the audio this time around comes through a bit better. I am monitoring the audio levels and the video feed and everything here on my computer. So I've got this here because I need to see the tech while we're doing this. Yep. Sorry, we don't have a producer. But, if you're looking to volunteer your time.
Maybe we could get Jason. He could sit at the desk.
Jason, don't help me with the live streams.
Fair.
Okay.
Fair.
Okay. Wait, what was it? Okay. I can't do it.
I can't roll my R's either.
Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right, Ian. So we started off last time doing a bit of an intro with the quilts that we were sitting with. And I liked that idea. So we're going to do a little bit of show and tell before we get into the podcast today. We'll just show one quilt. We'll talk about it. And we'll, of course, put imagery up on the screen to share that with you. But before we do... I have to introduce the topic that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, absolutely.
We teased this out last time. We asked you for your questions. And so we do have some viewer questions that we'll get to towards the end. But the topic today is setting up a dedicated sewing space.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And dedicated is relative, I feel like. It could be dedicated for an evening. It could be dedicated for a week. It could be dedicated for... in perpetuity. Is that a word? I don't know. Becca is
sure. We're going to go with it.
It could be dedicated indefinitely. And that space could be anything from your dining room table to a 2-car converted garage to a 10,000-foot studio where you have an entire staff, like whatever space is to you. We just want to talk a little bit about some of the things that you should consider when you're finding a space and working within that. And I think our stories are going to be a little different. You are just now starting to unpack in your sewing room, and I have already unpacked several times over. So I want to share the lessons that I had when I was converting my garage into a sewing room. And I'd love to pick your brain and think about some of the things that you're going to have to do in setting up that really small den.
Yep.
I mean, it's not small. I know it's bigger than what other
awkward.
people.
It's just awkward because it has a weird shape to it. But I've had to set up multiple spaces now. This is going to be the 4th space that I've had to set up. So I definitely want to talk about the journey going through the different spaces that I've had and what that's like.
Okay, well then let's do it.
Well, aren't we going to show off our quilts first?
Yeah, sure, whatever.
Let's show off the...
Like literally, I don't remember anything anymore.
ADHD.
Hi, welcome to the podcast.
Tonight, since this podcast is going to be coming out the week before Halloween.
Oh, is it?
Yes, it is. It is going to be coming out the week before Halloween. So I had to put on all of my Halloween garb and bring out the Halloween quilt. This is actually Village Green from the Puzzle Mystery Quilt. This is actually its 2nd trip to your house.
It is.
Because the first time was when I think we were doing the big reveal with
That's
it.
Right.
And so it was all quilted up. I think Beth is the one, if I remember correctly.
Yep, she did the quilting.
Beth did the quilting on this one. I have the tag on here somewhere. Just who knows which side it's on.
In fact, the glamour shots that you took of that quilt are hanging in my woods.
Yep. Just outside of here. So literally this quilt has been here twice. So I felt like this was a very fitting one. I never thought pink could be a Halloween color.
Oh, but that does so good.
It does, doesn't it?
It does.
doesn't, I don't know.
I never thought I would like orange, but seeing it with that charcoal gray and the pink and the cream, I'm like, okay, yeah, I could do that orange.
I know. It's so amazing.
And I don't like Halloween very much, but I even like that print. And I'm like, you know what? I could do that quilt.
Yes.
I could do that quilt.
Yes. I loved the print, especially this print up here, which is bats. It's like a line drawing of bats. I actually used, because I had left over from this, I put extra borders on this one. And I actually had leftover fabric, so I used that leftover fabric and made my iPad Hemingway pouch with it, and I love it. It's so soft, it's so nice, and I just love it. So yes, that's the quilt I'm using and displaying tonight is the Village Green.
Well, before we talk about my quilt, I do have a question for you, because I'm looking at that quilt, and what's popping in my head is you have obviously washed it since the last time I saw it.
Yes.
When I saw it last, it was very stiff.
Yeah. Actually,
oh gosh, that's another Beccaism.
Well, it's funny because as soon as the reveal was over, I threw it in your washing machine.
Oh, so I just didn't pay attention.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Well,
I'm not observant.
Took it out of the wash and took it downstairs where I was staying at the time. So you didn't see it after
Fair
that
enough.
point, I think. I
didn't cuddle with you.
I don't remember that.
I don't either. Maybe I did. You'll never know. Anyway, moving right along. So it looks washed. And the reason why I wanted to bring that up is because I know our friend Mary loves a stiff quilt.
Yep.
Shout out to Mary, the crafty panda. So she loves a stiff quilt and she will hold off on washing that quilt for the first time forever. Not ever, but for a long time. And you wash yours almost right away. So,
it depends.
Okay, I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
When do you wash your quilt after it's done?
So it really depends on the like if a quilt is going into a quilt show.
Oh,
if it's going into a quilt show, then I definitely hold off washing it until it does not go into any more shows.
Sorry, I feel like it needs to be adjusted. So just keep talking. It's fine. ADD.
I think that's going to be the thing with you is like readjusting the mic every couple of seconds.
Well, the other thing is I'm really refraining from talking like this because I feel like my mouth needs to be on the microphone.
We tried it. We actually
it sounded horrible.
It was so bad.
Although it didn't look like it was too bad when I just did that because I talked softly.
Right, so exactly. ASMR.
We're
going to start an ASMR channel next. ASMR just going to talk like this. Anyway, click. But the I hold off washing my quilts if I'm going to put it in a show. Which is interesting because I know some other quilters who do shows and they will wash theirs. They purposely wash theirs before putting it into a show. So
I always thought that you shouldn't.
I thought so too, but
hey, spoiler alert, this should be a podcast topic. Entering quilt shows.
Surprise! It's going to be one that we're going to be hitting later this season. We should talk about anyways.
Who's ADD now?
I know. But no, So when I finished the Puzzle Mystery Quilt, I can't remember the name of it. It is escaping my brain at the second, but it's the Piazza ones.
Oh yeah.
I held off washing that one, and I was waiting for the glamour shots. I wanted to get the glamour shots of it, and I wasn't ever able to because when I was in DFW in the Las Colinas area, they actually have canals. That would have been a perfect place to take glamour shots with it. Just never had the chance to go get those done before I left. So I held off washing it. I threw it on the bed when I got here and threw it on the bed and used it without washing it. And then once I got moved into my actual space, that's when I washed it and started using it on my bed there. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so Ian is showing off a Puzzle Mystery Quilt, which is perfect timing because not only is this a Halloween quilt, and we're releasing this episode just before Halloween, however, there is a Puzzle Mystery Quilt wrapping up very soon. Tree of Life will be wrapping at the beginning of November.
November 1st.
Yep. November, like November 1.
Yeah.
So in just a couple of weeks from now, you'll see what the reveal for Tree of Life means, or Tree of Life is.
Yeah.
Which also means that in December, the next Puzzle Mystery Quilt is going to be it's going to be out there for sign up. And so in just a very short period of time, just a couple of weeks, there will be another Puzzle Mystery Quilt from Cotton Cuts that'll be announced out there. Ian, are you planning to do the next Puzzle Mystery Quilt?
Yeah, I'm planning on doing the next Puzzle Mystery Quilt, and I am also I'm doing something a little scary.
What? What's that?
I am doing something that I've never thought I would do.
Uh-oh.
And I've talked with Cotton Cuts, and they said that they're gonna do this. So I'm nervous, but I'm gonna let America choose my colorway.
Oh, snap. I can't wait to pick all the browns.
I'm so nervous. I don't know why. I talked to our contact at Cotton Cuts and said, you know what, is there a way? I was just kind of spitballing ideas with her. I was like, what if I allowed everybody to choose my colorway? And she said, let me check on that. And then the next thing I know, she's like, we're moving forward with that. And I'm like, it was I was okay. So if everything works out, and I say America because I just internationally, I say America because I'm a Big Brother fan. Big Brother fans out there, you know, America's choice. I get it. So I've got that in my head. But yeah, and everybody will have the chance, I think, if everything goes to plan, to choose which colorway I'm going to be working on next. So,
that's awesome. I can't wait to see what they pick for you. Are they going to push you out of your comfort zone?
Yeah.
Or are they going to go and toe the line like I did when I picked out the colorway that you're doing for Tree of Life? So we'll see. We'll see. All right. So that's the quilt that's on your lap. 30 minutes later, this is the quilt on my lap. So this was using, I believe it was a jelly roll from One Canoe 2. That's the fabric designer for Moda Fabrics, but I might be off on that.
I almost said bless you. I thought you sneezed.
Achoo! It was a jelly roll that my mom picked out. She wanted it to be a jelly roll rug. And I was like, okay, Mom. And I liked the colors, and it sat on my shelf for probably about 4 years. I did nothing with it. And then I got this harebrained idea. Quilt as you go.
Yep.
Could I do quilt as you go on the long arm? Spoiler alert. You can, because I did. So I'll link to a video for that in the description box down below. I'll have to make a note to do that because I will probably forget. But I will link to that video in the description box down below. I showed you how I did it on the long arm. Did it come out perfect? I would not recommend doing quilt as you go on the long arm for a show quilt, but it is functional. I pieced it and quilted it all in one sitting. No, my quilting lines are not straight. No, the piecing is not straight, but it is functional. And I didn't add borders. It is literally just the jelly roll and nothing else. Nothing but the jelly roll, ma'am. And it's cozy. I washed it right away, and this is a very comfortable sized lap quilt. So highly recommend.
Yeah, mine is not a lap. Like, it's overflowing
All
everywhere.
of your quilts are that big. He always adds, like, they're huge.
I'm 6'2", so that's like fine. The lap quilts, I never make a lap quilt, to be honest, unless it's for somebody else, because a lap quilt for me is more like a queen size quilt.
And that's okay. That's okay. You know, I never realized, like, and I was telling this to Aaron last week, right? It's so funny how you navigate through the world at your eye level. You don't see where everybody is in relation to you. You just see the world. So when I see you, I don't register you as super tall because you are within a range that to me is acceptable. My dad was 6'3" or 6'4". My husband is 6 foot tall. So I'm just like, oh, he's around a guy's height, right? I see Aaron. Aaron's 5'3". She's within a couple inches of me. So I'm like, oh, she's around my height. I did not know how short I was. And I'm not short because I'm 5'6".
You're not. You're really not.
But I didn't realize how much difference there was between us until I saw us at that Village Green reveal on Cotton Cuts, standing next to each other in front of my shelves. And then I was like, I feel so small in that picture because the shelves are like 9 feet tall. Ian's not even all. So
it's funny too because I didn't register how tall I was
until you saw that.
Well, no. No, I've known I'm tall for a while now, but it didn't really hit me because I'm the tallest one in my entire family.
Oh, really?
And I didn't realize how tall I was over everybody else in my family until I remember a specific photo. We were in West Texas, out in the Fort Davis area, out at the McDonald Observatory. And they had, I don't know if they still have it anymore, but they had some life-size replicas of the mirrors that are in the observatories, in the telescopes. And my mom, my dad, and my sister are all standing in front of them. And we took the photo. And again, I'm like early teenager at this point. and I'm getting up close to that 6'2" frame. You know, I haven't quite hit that yet, but I'm taller than my sister. She's gonna always be petite. She will always be petite. My mom and my dad, like, my dad was, of course, the tallest in the family other than me, but I am like towering over him. So I think that was the moment that I was like, oh, I'm actually like really tall. So yeah, but it's kind of funny because I navigate the world and I don't really think about how tall I am until I get to something like quilts or having us stand next to each other or, you know, me next to Erin. Poor she's...
That was fun.
Yeah.
That was fun. Or Tiffany, right?
Or like Tiffany, yeah.
I think
Tiffany
she's like 5'1" or 5'2", something like that.
Yeah. So I don't even realize how tall I am until I either have to duck or like something calls it out that is like...
fall.
Or I fall. That too. That happens too.
And it's also funny because I feel like when I see somebody online, right, I get the box just here.
Yeah.
And so I don't have, and they're close up because you want that nice tight video on you. You don't get a lot of awareness for how tall, what their size, what their shape, what their body type really is.
You get the window.
You get the window,
and that's it.
Even if I throw in like full on body shots, you don't. It's different when you see them in person because you're like, right? Like it's not this larger than life image. It's just a person.
Exactly.
So yeah, it'll be funny. In my head, Tula Pink will take up like Tula Pink would be like this really big personality, and she's like my height. I don't know. I've never met her, and she's like, I don't know. Just it's just funny how they take up different spaces when you meet them in person.
Absolutely.
There have been times where I have met celebrities, Donnie Wahlberg, where I have met celebrities, and they've literally walked right past me because I expected them to be bigger in person, larger than life, because in my brain and their on-screen personality is larger than life. And so I equate that to their body type, not saying that they're fat, just I'm expecting like this big presence and they're just a person.
Yeah.
So anyway, it has nothing to do with setting up a sewing room.
No, we have gone off on a far tangent as always.
That's fine. We're going to rename this podcast to Quilter's Tangent. You're welcome.
So sewing spaces.
Yeah, I've got a list of topic ideas or questions. Yeah. So I'm going to pull up my phone and I'm just going to run through the bulleted list of things that we have. I'll ask an open-ended question. We'll use this as kind of a conversation starter and we can just go from there. So the first thing that we have on the list is to talk a little bit about what your space looks like versus mine. Let's just set the framework for what that space is going to be.
Yep.
And maybe we'll do a couple of photos on here while we're talking. So why don't you describe what your sewing room space is kind of limited to?
Well, I'm actually going to go back to the very first space.
Go for it. Yeah.
And the very first space that I had was in my mom's house.
Okay.
She and I shared we called it a craft room. It was the front bedroom. And so she had like half of the room was hers, half of the room was mine. And so at that time I was also doing paper crafting. That was where I got my start from. So starting off paper crafting, got all the, cardstock, stamps, Cricut, like all the things, all the stamping things, all the paper crafting things. So in that space, obviously I'm sharing it. And so I need to have it flexible and it needs to be a space that both people can use when needed, right? So like a space for me, but it needs to be movable, or I need to be able to clear it off easily. So that way, if mom needed to do something in the space, she could do that. Makes sense. There was a lot of things up on the wall. I, of course, had all of my recording equipment in there. So my camera and my tripods and my lights and all those things. So it wasn't the best space for me, but again, it was a space and I'm sharing it. So got to do what I got to do and use it. And then we also had a flood in there. And so we had to rip everything out. There's a video on my channel where I, am broadcasting from an empty space because everything had to come out of the room, had to take up the carpet, and mom put in hardwood floors. And so that was, of course, a process. And I don't even remember what I did during that time because I was producing a video a week. I wasn't live streaming at that point, but I was producing a video a week. So I don't even remember what I did other than I know I kind of broadcast. I think I did do a couple lives just to keep in the algorithm and just keep going. But I didn't do a lot of crafting at that point because the whole room was completely torn up. So that was a lot. That was hectic, but it got put back together and everything went, back into rhythm and worked out well. The next crafting space I had was when I moved in with my roommate, Kayla. And that space did not work very well because I split my space up. Again, I was sharing an apartment with Kayla. And so we needed to share the common areas together, which is where my recording setup was, which was where part of my supplies were. The other half of my supplies were in my room, which didn't make for a very creative, a good creative flow. Like if I thought about something, like if I didn't pull everything out that I needed right then and there, I would have to go and get it. So again, I'm still more in my card making, although I am starting to work on puzzle mystery quilts and stuff like that. But I would, if I forgot an ink or forgot something, I would have to go into my room and grab it. And by that point, I'm just like, I don't want to get up. I don't want to move. I don't want to go get this. Like it really kind of, your brain just kind of goes,
yeah.
Do I have to?
Yeah.
So it really wasn't great for a creative space. And I also had to make sure that I didn't want to annoy my roommate either. So I was wanting to make sure that I wasn't, being loud while she's trying to sleep or, keep her locked in her room while I'm trying to record a video. Like I don't want to do that to her. And so there's a period of time when I would pretty much just put out puzzle mystery quilt videos and that was it.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to be respectful to my roommate and make sure that she felt comfortable in her own space too. And so I really wanted to, I couldn't find a good time to do that. And couldn't find, again, I didn't have the mojo to do it either.
Yeah.
So did that for a little bit. And then I moved into my own apartment by myself. And I had a living room that was not a living room.
It was your craft room.
It was my craft room. It was literally my craft room. I didn't have a couch.
That is a recurring theme that you hear about on your channel all the time. Are you going to have a couch in your new place again?
Are you going to have a new couch? Yep.
Proud to announce he does.
Yes, I do have a couch. I do have a couch now. But yeah, I didn't have a couch. I literally set up my 6-foot table, my 6-foot folding table in the center of my living room. I had the big screen TV in front of me because what do I do most of the time during crafting? I'm looking at the TV.
And we'll talk about that in a few moments.
Absolutely. And so I had my TV in front of me. I had the 6-foot folding table. I had my sewing machine, and the other half of the table was my dinner space, my lunch space, my cutting mat, it was an all functional table.
That chair, your chair got so much wear because now you work from home.
Yep.
And I think you started working from home before you moved into that apartment, or was
yes,
it right? Okay,
yes.
Yeah. So it be like your dining room became your office.
Yep.
Your living room became your craft room.
Yep.
You had a kitchen that still functioned as a kitchen because you had to eat.
Yes.
Bathroom was still a bathroom because the food had to come out. And you had your bedroom.
Yep.
I was like, that works for you.
Yeah.
That works for you. Who needs a couch? Like you had one rolly chair that went back and forth.
I did. Yep.
Right?
I had
one chair,
yep.
No guests.
Yep. I literally, if people wanted to come over and hang out, I would
bring a chair.
I would tell them, I was like, you have to bring a chair. And I did have one outdoor folding chair that if they needed.
How great is that? Like I feel like that's a meme. Tell me you don't want company without telling me you don't want company. And then just pan to your front room.
I mean, pretty much. But it's funny because I really got inspired for that. Melody Lane was one of the people that got me into YouTube.
Right.
And when she moved to the Villages in Florida.
Right.
And in her new house, her living room was her craft room. Like there was no official living room. It was all craft room. And she was huge Cricut ambassador.
Right.
So she had all the Cricut things. And she needed a place for all of those. In fact, I think I don't even remember how many Cricut machines she ended up with because she would like every time that a new machine was coming out, she would get one because she's an ambassador for them. No hate whatsoever. There were literally like 10 machines, I think, at one point on her shelving unit because Cricut, every time a new machine came out, they would send her one. And so she turned her living room into that huge crafting space. So, people would ask all the time, well, don't you miss having a living room? And she's like, why? I spend all my time in here anyways. So what would a living room do for me? Yeah. Like, there's nothing here that I don't like. Everything's here. And it's like, well, that makes sense. So she really inspired me to just embrace that living room space, being
almost minimalist lifestyle. To touch on what we talked about last time, right? You chose to really live in your craft. Yeah. And that is actually a good segue to where you are now. Yep. Right? Yep. So now the place that you're staying in, your apartment has defined areas. Yes. It has an office area. Yep. It has a YouTube /sewing area. Right. It has a functional living room. You have your bedroom. Mm-hmm. You have a space where you can sit and do computer stuff that's not work. So spoiler alert, he has 2 desks.
I do.
With 2 different chairs. Like, that's new.
Partly because it was already furnished. Some of the items in there were already furnished. So I brought my standing desk because my work desk.
Spoiler alert, I want one.
It's so nice.
I've seen his. It's great. I want one. I'm like, I was going to touch on something and I'm just going to skirt around that. I really want one of those. Mm-hmm. I bought a treadle desk.
Yes, you did.
A while ago. And I love that thing. But my sister doesn't have a good sewing table. Mm-hmm. She doesn't have anything solid. And it hit me today. Like, part of my struggle is I don't like to get something new and replace it until I have a home for what I already have because there's useful life in it. And I feel wasteful to just replace for the sake of replacing. Right. But when I know that somebody else is in need of something that I have, it's almost like a green light for me to be like, it's okay to buy the thing that I want now. Yes. So now I'm like, ooh, standing desk. So my thought is, not right now, but maybe around Christmas time, maybe that could be a good Christmas gift from the husband or something. Since I do work from home, I could get one of those really nice standing desks so I could sit or I could stand. I could have more desk space for a bigger monitor. Yep. But then she could take that desk home and put her brand new baby lock on that thing and just have a heyday. Yep.
Yeah, standing desk, if you work from home, even in offices, I wish more offices would get standing desks. Because
so we're actually getting, hold on. We had the Very desks. Do you know what those are? So if you don't know what they are, they're these platforms, that sit on top of your desk and you grab these handles and you have to lift it up. Yeah. And sometimes it lifts up and towards you. Yep. And it works. And it's not terribly difficult to lift. Now they make them powered so they can come up. The new version makes them powered. Where I work, we bought a number of those. If anybody wanted one, they put in an order for them. But they... I don't like it when my desk shakes. Yeah. I don't like it. And so these desks would come up on an arm and they would stand all the way up and they'd come to you. And even just typing, you could see the monitor shake a little bit. And I was just like, I can't do this. Like, I want to stand. I know it's better for me, but everything's shaking. Now we're in an era where the furniture is lifting and it's lifting everything up because the cords are plugged into the desk. Like, similar to what you have. That wasn't the case. You had to make sure you had like 20 feet of cord to have it come up. And I was just like, this is not worth it. But what I want is kind of like what you have, where it has the outlet built in and it brings everything up to you, including your writing surface. And it's stable and not shaking even a little bit when it's fully extended or fully lowered.
Which is funny because when my desk arrived here, I set it up. I set everything up. I got my computer monitor because I have double screens. I had my monitors, I had my little everything. Everything was set up. And as I started working on it, it was way wobbly, like super, super wobbly. And I was like, oh, I'm going to have to take everything off of it and fix it. I got clever. It may have been pretty dumb the way that I did it, but I like stuck a rolling table, a good solid rolling table underneath it, and actually like push the button to make the desk lower, which hit the top of the rolling table and lifted the legs up, and I was able to tighten it that way. Do not recommend. 10 out of 10, do not recommend doing that. Like, I was amazed that nothing went wrong. I was just waiting for something to go wrong, but I was able to tighten it and everything's good, and now my desk is perfect again. But note to self, when I move again, make sure that those legs are tightened up before I set everything on top of it. But yeah.
So we've touched on where you've been. We've touched on your apartment.
We've touched on I have a couch.
Yeah, we've touched on he has a couch. So now let's talk about the space that you're going to be setting up in, because I want to draw a contrast. I feel like the audience, if you're familiar with my channel, you've seen my sewing room. I've taken you on the journey to convert my garage. I've done studio tours where I've shown you this space. So I feel like most people have a good feel for what my space is. And
Definitely.
I'll link to those videos in the description box down below. But before we talk about how you're going to set yours up and some of the considerations that I have on this list, just help the viewers understand why you're calling your room odd shaped.
Yes, absolutely. So it has 3 flat walls.
Yeah,
because it has that little kind of nook area.
Looks like it should be a closet.
Yeah, it looks like it should be a closet, but there are 3-ish sides that are flat. But then there's this 4th wall that I don't know why they designed it this way, or what the thinking was, or I have no idea why. But inevitably it has this weird slanted, so when you come to the door of the room, it has a slanted wall.
A wall that's like 45 degrees.
Yeah, it is almost exactly 45 degrees, and it's a weird. I wish that it was a square room, because it would make it easier. It would make it so much easier. And I've got to figure out the thing that if I wasn't a YouTuber, it would be a lot easier. Like, let's be honest. If I didn't have to worry about camera angles and lighting and all of that, I wouldn't have to worry so much about it. But now, being a YouTuber, it's
not just setting up your desk with your sewing machine and putting your fabric in there. You have to also set up the YouTube equipment so that you're getting the angle. You have the place for the overhead shot. You have the place for the face shot. So yeah, totally get you on all that. And that is the bane of my existence in this room, because sometimes I just want to be in here and be like, oh, this is just such a pretty sewing room. But I feel like I'm always looking at tech because it's always set up. So yeah, I feel you on that.
Yeah. And if I wasn't if I didn't have to worry about angles and all that kind of stuff, I could set a desk, a sewing desk up against the wall and be done with it. Yeah. And, have that as my sewing space. But I need to be facing towards the center of the room, or towards some place that my camera can see me. So that way you don't just see my back the entire time that I'm on, live streaming or recording or whatever like that. So
if you had to estimate how deep and how wide the room is, taking into account one of those walls is at a 45 degree angle, approximately what size would you say that room is?
Gosh, I don't even know. I feel like it's a 11 by 11 in the deepest part, 11.
Yep. But you lose a lot of that.
But you lose a lot with that slanted wall.
That's I don't think you could. I think you could fit a twin bed in there. At the back, if it just went literally if it was right up against the wall. Right. Yeah. And then you'd have enough space to walk in. Yeah. And maybe turn around and come out. So just to give you an idea, and maybe we can do some pictures in here so people can understand what the room looks like. Yeah. Or maybe we've already done that. Spoiler alert, we probably already have. So that's your space. Yeah. My space was a 2-car garage. It was a tight 2-car garage, and it has been converted into a fully functional living-ish area. And so I've got everything in here. I've got two functioning workstations with sewing machines on them. I've got a long arm and a 10-foot frame. I've got a pressing and cutting station just over your left shoulder there. And I've got a conversation area, which is great for just sitting and doing handwork or watching the TV that's on the wall. I have everything that I need, but I will tell you, I have a dream of having a bigger space one day. But that would be like a bigger commercial space.
Yeah.
So just spoiler alert, as we start talking about sewing spaces, you never have enough space, right? So that's the thing. Like, I have 400 square feet.
Yeah.
And now I want more.
Yeah. I think that's the thing with every crafter, sewer, paper crafter, everybody who does a thing, they always want more space.
Yep.
Because when I was living in mom's house, I wanted more space. When I moved in with my roommate, I wanted more space. When I moved in by myself, I wanted more space.
You're down in your apartment down the road. You have a small space. It's yours. It's dedicated, which is what you've been saying for years. Yep. You're not even unpacked it. You're always like, I'm going to need more space.
Yep. Yep. Like I'm having to put some, I already know I'm having to put some of my shelves and my drawers units. I have some container store, the Elfa, I think. Not sponsored, by the way.
Could be. Hit us up.
Those drawer units are going to have to go out into the living space because
I think that's fine.
It's
you
fine.
did that before.
Yeah, I've done it before. It's not a big deal, but like that's just going to have to be something that happens. Like it just seems like no matter what, we always need more space, no matter what it is.
I absolutely agree with you. So on that note, that is actually one of the topic solutions that we have here. I'm just going to go through these questions because I feel like we'll just keep tangenting and talking. And I want to talk about this like a little bit more. So one of the topics that we had on here are storage solutions for your fabric, your notions, and your thread. And so we're talking about this limited space and how we're going to deal with it. I learned when I moved into this space, I thought the key for me was shelves. I need shelves because the walls are so tall since it was a garage. I need to make the best use out of my wall space as possible. So I took the entire back wall of my room and I bought IKEA Billy bookcase shelves and I went almost end to end. Spoiler alert, I couldn't fit the small one there because it's like 15 inches wide and that's like an 11-inch space. Yep. So I have a gap down at one end where I just kind of stick little nooks and crannies in. And I've kind of thought about putting like a little floating shelf in there for some knickknacks. I think that'd be fun.
That'd be cool.
But in the meantime, I've gone as far up as I could. I bought the tallest bookshelves and I got an extension on top of all of them. I can't reach the top of that thing without getting on top of a ladder.
Yep.
And I could have gone all the way to the ceiling if I wanted to, but I wanted a place to display knickknacks. Right. So that's why I didn't.
Right.
What I learned in that is while that got everything onto a shelf, there was still a whole lot of stuff that needed closed storage. And I did not understand the importance of having some good drawers in your space and some good containers. Yes, you can put a lot on a shelf, but sometimes you just need some cabinets and some drawers. And Mary, shout out to the Crafty Panda, she pointed that out for me because I saw that I was having a problem keeping things organized, keeping things put away, making it feel a little tidy. And I didn't know what that problem was until she pointed that out. So I invested in more storage from IKEA. Closed storage is what she calls it. And that has been game changer. So my big 2 lessons for storage in my space is use the walls and have some hidden closed storage to put things away that you don't want to see because it just makes it feel messy and yucky.
Yeah.
What about you?
So I actually have, again, I have those container store drawers and they're wire mesh. So you can see right into them. I don't have a problem with clutter. Like if I see clutter, it doesn't bother me. So I filled up those drawers with random assortments of all kinds of things. And it gets it out of the way. And when I was in my space in DFW, I knew exactly which drawer everything was in. And that worked for me. But I think you're right. I think like having open storage is good, but also having that closed storage, especially for like, I really want to get some like drawer organizers for those drawers because
I may have some in my Amazon cart that have been there for like 2 months.
Yeah. There are some notions that are just like, you don't want them floating around in those drawers. You want a specific clear spot for them to go and a clear organizational spot for them to go. So that way, like when you open the drawer, they don't go rolling all the way to the back of the drawer. Ask me how I know. Every time. So stuff like that is so incredibly helpful. So not only is it the closed space, but it's also the making sure that there are spaces within those spaces that you can organize as well.
I am just taking a moment because I feel like I keep looking at my phone and that is so distracting for our conversation. So I have pulled up the checklist of items that we're talking about on the screen so I can glance down and see them. That is my lesson learned.
There you go. There you go.
We've talked about storage solutions and you alluded to Notion. So let's talk a little bit about the way you're planning to store your fabric and your thread, because we talked a little bit about your Notions.
Yep.
Wanting to put those in drawers and having organizers. What about your fabric? I have mine on comic book boards.
Yeah.
They look like mini bolts. What are your thoughts?
I'm taking your suggestion.
Wait, hold on. Before you do, can I give you a tip?
Yes.
Because I wished I would have done this.
Yes.
And now I don't, I will not go back. So when I bought the comic book boards, I loved them because it held the bolts of fabric. And I'll put some footage on here so you can see what I'm talking about. I have my fabric organized on my shelf in such a way that I've taken these acrylic bookends that butt up against the fabric to kind of hold it in place. But those comic book boards are not super sturdy. And so if you look at the shelves, you can see that some of them are kind of tilting a little bit. So my recommendation for you, if you do that, is to find a bookend that is as high as your comic book board.
That's a good tip.
Or find something that is sturdier and thicker that's not going to flop over as easily. And I might be drooling over the idea of replacing every one of those comic book boards with foam board.
Yeah.
But that gets expensive.
It does.
The comic book boards are really affordable. They're like $20 for a package of 100 on Amazon. I'll link to them. It will be an affiliate link, but I will link to them in the description box down below so you can pick them up relatively easy. You will need more than you think you need.
Yeah.
You will need more than you think you need, but they are flimsy.
Yep.
So just make sure that you've got some way to kind of reinforce those.
Keep them vertical. Yeah. One of the biggest problems I had in my spaces was the good fabric. My good fabric was, and I think we talked about this maybe on last time's podcast, of the good fabric was in my master closet.
Yeah, he kept it closeted.
I did. I kept them in the closet. But
now they get to come out.
But yeah, they do get to come out. They get to come out and shine. Yeah, so I kept them in the closet because that's where I had them in 12 by 12 project storage bins, and that worked. It wasn't great, but it worked for what I had. But with one thing that I'm loving about your shelves is you can see what you have.
I think that is game changer.
It is.
Whether
really
you use comic book boards, magazine boards, Mary likes the magazine boards. They're just a little bit taller. I wasn't going to reinvest because I had already taken the plunge on comic book boards. And the nice thing about the IKEA Billy bookcases is you can adjust the shelves to be whatever height you need them to be. So if you want to just buy it by the bolt and put the bolts up there, you could do that too.
Yeah.
But she likes the magazine boards. I like the comic book boards. That was game changer for me. We talked about this a little bit last time. I am able to shop intentionally now because I've got fabric on my shelves, and that color, that fabric, that also feeds as a form of art and inspiration for me. So yeah, you know what you have. And I say bring it out. Like get that fabric out there. Put it on display, organize it in a way that makes sense by designer, by line, by color, whatever works for your brain. Put it on display so you can see what you have, because once you see what you have, you're more likely to use it.
Absolutely. And I have a lot of Tula Pink because she's one of my favorite designers. So I have a lot of Tula Pink. But you know, having it displayed where I can see it is going to inspire me more, I feel like, and be like, okay, I need to use this fabric because I literally have 20 bolts. So this one or whatever.
Just, oh, that's so pretty, and I like looking at it, and I just want to pet it and sit down. That's fine.
I enjoy petting my fabric. I have
fat quarter bundles, and you don't get to see this in my videos very often because of the angle of the camera, but along the top of my shelves, I've got fat quarter bundles of some of my favorite fabric collections. Some of them have been up there. I have a fat quarter bundle of some lines that are definitely out of print.
Yeah.
I don't have any intention of using them. I just like to look at them.
Yeah.
They're packaged from the manufacturer. They look pretty. So I don't think there's any harm in that. If your yum is to just walk past and pet it, I'm not going to yuck that. I take it.
I do admit that I fondle my fabric.
That's okay. I do too. I think we all do. I don't think you're a real quilter unless you fondle your fabric.
It's true.
Let us know in the comments down below. Do you fondle your fabric? That sounds horrible. All right. So we talked about fabric.
Yeah.
We talked about notions. How are you planning to store your thread?
So my thread. So that's the funny thing. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
I only piece in 3 colors.
What are they?
They are dove gray.
Check.
Black.
Understood.
White.
Like pure white?
Pure white.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
Those are the 3 colors that I use. And most of the time now it's dove gray because that seems to
it blends with everything.
It goes with everything.
2600 Aurifil 50 weight.
Yep.
Link to it in the description box down below.
Not sponsored.
No, but definitely affiliate.
Aurifil, please. But anywho, no, but like those are the 3 and it's so funny because I went in. So it's funny story. I went into my local quilt shop when I was in Fort Worth. And Sew It Up Bernina, shout out to them.
Not sponsored, but could be.
They knew me by name. Like they knew me by name. If
you're watching, give Ian some hearts. Sew It Up Bernina.
Right, exactly. But I bought a bobbin holder because I needed a bobbin holder because I had the Bernina Barbie box. I have that, and that's where I was keeping all my bobbins in. But I was like, you know what? I've had my machine for several years now. I really need to have some more bobbins. And I really need an actual bobbin holder besides the Bernina Barbie box. If you're a Bernina owner, you know what I'm talking about.
If you're not, there's a picture on the screen right now to show you what you're talking about.
Exactly. But it was funny because they're like, they knew when I bought the machine. So they're like, wait, you've gone this whole time without getting more bobbins?
How many did you have?
I think I had 6. I think the machine came with 6, if I remember correctly. And I had black, white, dove gray. I had my embroidery bobbin thread. And I think I did load one of the bobbins with a gold and I think a green.
Okay.
I think. So I that was all I had though. And so they were like, wait, you've gone this entire time using those colors? And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much it. And like, there hasn't really been a time that I've needed much else. So for me, I think I do have a box of Aurifil like rainbow. So it has, red, green, orange, blue, purple, pink, all that. But that's it. That's all the thread that I have. And most of the time I'm just rebuying dove gray.
So I'll take you one step further. I piece with 6722. It's a cream color, or 2600 if I don't have that available. A few years ago, I picked out a color of thread that I liked that worked as a dark. It worked well with black and blended well with any dark color.
Yep.
That was Aurifil 2625. I picked out a white-ish thread. It was cream, so it blended well with whites or light low volumes or whatever. That was 6722. And then my middle of the row was 2600 dove gray.
Yep.
And I just tend to stick to 6722. It's a cream thread. If I'm piecing black fabric, I use the cream thread. I know I should not, but I also look at it as though if I'm not putting a lot of tension on the seam, then you don't see the threads. However, in FPP, I have started to notice, okay, maybe that wasn't the best decision. So it changes, but usually I'm just buying 6722 all the time.
Yeah.
I do have on the wall in my room a thread rack that I think I got from Joann's, and it's got a ton of thread on it and a lot of colors, and I don't use any of them.
Are you going to tell me to look at your rack again?
No. Because last time I did, you made fun of me. And then said,
this is one of the funniest moments with you ever.
But I was being serious. I was talking about my quill rack.
You were entirely serious, and I love that. But it just came out.
Anywho, all right. So we talked about fabric. We talked about notions.
Yeah.
And you don't have very much thread, so you're just going to keep it.
And also another funny thing is, like, I literally would put the rainbow thread in the drawer in my Container Store drawer units. The rest of it floated on my table.
Oh, so it's just going to float on his table.
Yeah,
it's
literally
fine.
Just sitting out.
Okay, so, all right. So listen, you have everything from ultra organized, everything on display, everything's perfect, to it don't matter. Well, we're just going to get it done.
I'm switching colors. So, I mean, sometimes I'm switching colors so frequently that I'm just like, why even put it away? Like, there's no reason to put it away. I'm just going to be grabbing for it tomorrow.
But there are some folks out there right now that are having a panic attack at this moment. You don't put your thread away when you're done. You just leave it there for weeks on end.
Yep. Literally. And I would usually have the next one ready to go sitting on the table too. Like, literally, that's how I roll.
So, table. Let's talk about sewing tables.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned in your old home, in your old sewing space, you had a 6-foot craft table.
Yep.
And when we say 6-foot craft table, what we mean are those 6-foot folding tables that you buy for like outdoor picnics.
Yep.
That's what you sewed on.
Yep. For a long time now.
And it's like, is that what you're going to still sew on?
So I don't think that's going to fit in the room. To be honest, I don't think that's going to fit in the room. And so I have, every time I've come to visit you and use your machine, I point in this direction because it's literally right in front of me. But there is a Gidget 2 table that
I'll link to it in the description box down below because people ask.
Yeah. Yep. Gidget 2 table. And I really like that table. And I think it's a shorter table. It's not the 6-foot table.
No.
It's a shorter table. And I think that's going to work in my space a lot better.
Yeah, I agree.
And thankfully, everybody's been great. And my ad revenue this month from YouTube has been great. So everybody, thank you, everyone. You are buying me a new table. I appreciate it so much. You don't even know. But yeah, I'm going to use that money to, I think, get the Gidget 2 table.
I love that.
And fit that in. I need to figure out another smaller table that I can set next to me because I'll of course have the sewing machine in front of me. And I haven't quite decided which side I feel is going to be best. I think it's going to end up over on this side, but I don't know yet. But I need another table next to me that has a cutting and pressing area on it.
I have a table right over by my sewing workstation. I'll link to this in the description box down below too. It was a find on Amazon for $30 or $40. You can adjust the height. It's an oversized TV tray basically. And it's plastic on the top. And it fits like a 17 by 24 mat or pressing surface perfectly.
Yeah.
And you can make it the height of your desk. And so I have one of those, and you'll notice like when I'm sewing on my channel, you'll notice that little table off to my left hand side.
Yep.
That's what that is.
Yeah.
It's extremely affordable. And when my mom's here, we put that over by where you have the Martelli cart that you're borrowing right now. We put that over there, and that has been awesome for her too. So I would highly get yourself an Aero Gidget table and get yourself the TV tray.
Yeah. I'll have to. Yeah. I think that's going to be a good solution, especially for that space, the way the space is going to need to be set up. I think that's going to have to work that way. So,
I like that.
But it's funny because, here we are talking about space and not having enough space. And there are some people in our audience who literally sew on their kitchen table.
I know. I was just thinking that.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, we have to think about, let's put this into perspective, that we have an awesome space. We have a space. Let's put it that way. Period.
Like
You could put something up and leave it there.
Yeah, I love that my machine is always set up, ready to go. So I can come in here, I can sit down, I can create, and I can get up and I can walk out of the room. And so if I choose to leave 3 spools of Oriflow floating around on my desk, that's my problem and nobody else's, because it's my space where I'm going to decompress. But I didn't always have that.
Right.
And I know there are a lot of folks out there that still don't have that and may never have that. And while I love this space and I like talking about it and I get a lot of questions about it and I'm happy to have that conversation, I don't ever want to come across feeling like I'm better than anybody else, because I don't think that. I don't think that. I just get really excited and passionate about what I have and some of the things that I've found that I can share with you. But I know not everybody has a garage that they convert. Not everybody is going to drop the money on a new home or move across country or you're a mom and you're working, right? And the only time you have to sew is on the weekends when you can clear off the dining room table. Whatever your space is, like, I hear you. Please don't think that we're trying to alienate you with this episode.
I hear you.
That's not the case.
I see you.
What is the thing that Stuart does from SNL? You were kind. I don't know, whatever. Look what I can do. No, not Stu. And everybody loves you, whatever it is. Anyway, moving on. All right, so sewing table.
But yeah, we don't want to neglect the people out there that don't have.
My sister.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
My sister.
It's the kitchen table sewers.
I will say, for my sister and those out there, if you have walls, my mom is one of them. If you're looking for some space where you can just have your machine, whether it's tucked away or set up, that Arrow Gidget 2 table, it works because it doesn't take up a lot of footprint. It's sturdy, so you can put a heavy duty machine on it and you have enough space to do the sewing. No, you don't have this great big cabinet like that I have set up in the middle of my room, but it does the job. It does the job. It's affordable. It doesn't take up a lot of foot space and it holds up.
Absolutely.
So, if you are looking to get off of the dining room table, they have 2 versions of this table that I recommend. They have the Gidget 2 and the Gidget 1. The Gidget 1 has a smaller hole in the middle of the table for you to put a machine in, so it fits smaller machines. But if you're not going to recess a machine down in there and you're just going to use it as a table, that doesn't matter. Also, the Gidget 1 is not made to be portable. So the Gidget 2 table, if you look at the legs, it has 2 wheels on it, and it's meant to fold up so the legs tuck in under themselves, and one of the legs turns into a handle, and so you can kind of pull it along instead of carrying it. It's meant to be a table that you take to retreats.
Right.
And so the price tag reflects that. But if you're looking for a good sewing table that's sturdy, that you want to get into for less than $200, the Arrow 1, I think it's around 200, somewhere around there. I think this one's priced at like $300. So definitely affordable, but also if the kitchen table works too. And
for our kitchen table sewists, for them, modular is what they need. Is being able to have modular things that they can easily, collapse or bring down and then transport to wherever they store their things. So,
and let me interject here. So I'm putting on the screen right now some video footage of this amazing product that I found that helps with that modular setup. So Caterpillar has this cutting mat out now that opens up to be ginormous, but it folds down to be very, very small. And the way they've aligned the creases and the puzzle pieces to snap into each other, you almost don't even feel the crease between the different between the different sections as you're unfolding it and using it. I picked one of these up from the expo and I absolutely love it. I think I might have a discount code for Caterpillar too. And so I'll put a link to that product with a coupon code if I have it in the description box down below. You guys have got to check this out because that was game changer. The second modular thing that is game changer are those pressing tiles. So from what is her name? Sewing by Sarah. That's the name of the company. She sent me a package of these to try, and I love them. They are wool pressing mats that are cut to be like a puzzle, and you get a set of 4 of them, and you basically assemble them just like you would those foam mats that go on the floor to be whatever size, whatever shape you need it to be for your space.
Yeah.
And so the neat thing about both of those things is they're there. They can be as big as you need them or as small as you need them. They fold up. They get put away easily for storage. They're very portable. And so I'll put a link to that. And I do have a 20% coupon code for you. It's actually 20% off the entire website. I'll put that in the description box down below too.
Awesome.
Sorry. I didn't mean to this was not supposed to be like a television, after it wasn't supposed to be that. But those, when you said modular, I was like, wait a minute. Those items are so handy.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a third thing that I think would help everybody, whether you have a 400 square foot space or you're sewing at the kitchen table. I have all these drawers. Do you know where my notions that I always need to have go?
Over there.
Well, yeah, over there. But they're in, no joke, a $20 tackle box.
Yep.
I found a cute tackle box that had the colors that I wanted. I got the size that I wanted. I'll link to it in the description box down below. And every notion that I need, my must-have notions are always in there. Yeah. And that's nice because I always know where they're at. They're always in there. I do have some just scattered about as I'm using them, but I keep everything in there. And as I'm going, like if I need to go somewhere, I just pick it up and go somewhere else.
Yep.
The only caveat to that are these little trays that Mary found. She bought a few for me. We got them from Joann's. I'll link to that in the description box down below. Just all the links in the description box.
In this.
This little tray is game changer for my machine notions. So I keep one of these little organizers for my baby lock. My mom's baby lock. I keep one for my Juki. I keep one for my Singer. And it has my bobbins in it. It has the feet for that machine. And it just keeps them organized. So I know if I'm working on Ruby, my Singer 301, that needs to come down and be pulled out. But if I'm going to take the Juki on retreat, I need to pull the Juki tray out. So that's been really helpful too.
Yeah. It's very
modular
helpful.
storage. Compact, easy, portable. You put it away easily, but it's kind of just there. Okay, I'm sorry. 30 years later. All right, let's talk a little bit about lighting solutions. Your room's very dim.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. It is very dim. So when I was in my older spaces, I would usually set up to have a light on my desk. When I was using my fold-out table to record videos, I long ago, even before I was like super into YouTube and all that kind of stuff, aught lights were the rage.
Yeah.
Everybody had an aught light. So I got 2 of these like not folding, but like bendable aught lights. And that's what I've been using to light my recording space was the aught lights because they're perfect. That they can get super bright. The color temperature looks great. And so I don't like overhead lighting.
I've noticed that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You walk into his apartment and I actually kind of love the ambiance.
Yeah.
He has canned lights like I have in here in his apartment and they're all turned off and all the lamps are on.
Yes.
I like that vibe. Unfortunately, in this room, I need all the lights because I need well lit. I need balanced light.
Absolutely.
For everything. So I'm going to tell you, I'm just going to interrupt and tell you what my recommendation is because apparently I'm all the words tonight. The one thing that I found helps with the lighting solution, obviously good lights,
right? But
daylight bulbs.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And I have some of the hue lamps.
So you can change
the light bulbs, so I can change the color temperature, which is nice because, I am in a basement apartment and there's not many windows in a basement apartment. And so to help kind of keep track of time, because, I literally sit at my desk and I have a window that I can look out. There is a window in the basement. But to help keep track of time, I didn't even notice this. I even noticed this in my old apartment where I had full windows and everything. The color temperature changes throughout the day. So it'll adjust from morning light to afternoon light to evening light, which has really helped me keep track of the rhythm of the day, because the light will change without even, I don't notice it changing. But, in the evening time, I'm like, oh, it is more orangey. It kind of helps with that circadian rhythm and making sure that I'm still staying on that, and I don't end up staying up until 5 o'clock in the morning because my circadian rhythm is
that's why I never have an easy time falling asleep, because I leave out of the daylight room and lay in bed and go, wide awake.
Yep. So it really does help to have that kind of color shift throughout the day, and helps kind of keep those natural cues that our brain subconsciously pick up on. It really helps with that. So, but yeah, I definitely, when it comes to recording and stuff like that, I need some daylight bulbs.
So that room's going to probably be a little
that
different.
Room will be brighter, and I'll use the overhead lighting and stuff like that. Probably while I'm recording and while I'm live streaming. The moment that stuff shuts off, it's going to go back to the regular lamps and stuff. Because, when I was in my apartment in Fort Worth, I would have the table light on, but I wouldn't even use, the only time that overhead light would turn on is when I was live streaming on Sundays. That would be the only time that light came on. Even when I was doing recorded videos, I would bring my ring light out, and at that apartment, I had a window that I could stand near, and so I was getting the light coming in from the natural light, but then I would have my ring light as well, and it gave this really nice look to it. I really liked that, so I'm gonna have to figure out how to set up my space to make it not look like a basement.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of what we're, not the entire conversation, but so much of what we're talking about with our space is driven by the content creation side of the house, which I know is not a topic that most of our viewers have to deal with. They're like, no, I don't care about that. Like, I just need to be able to see it. And I'm sure there are people out there that are like, no, I need all the lights so that I can see what I'm doing. Because I will tell you, as my eyes got old, as I get older, my eyes age, and I need more light to be able to see the things. But yeah, like, it's such a weird place to be in, because your space isn't just a crafting space. It's also kind of an office. It's a production studio as well. And you've got equipment for both things that you have to do. And so for us to share what we've done in our room, maybe it doesn't always make sense to everybody.
Sure,
but there are things that we can learn.
And I feel like, everybody enjoys having the curtain pulled back a little bit.
Okay, fair. And I just like in my head, I was like, well, wait a minute. Should we be giving them more tips for setting up their space? And I'm realizing that my setup, right? And I think I already knew this, but it just popped in my head. My setup is my challenges aren't Bob's challenges, right? Right? Like, Bill's a quilter. Bill's not a content creator.
Right.
He doesn't care about having 5 different cameras pointing at him.
Right.
He doesn't care about having the perfect light and trying to not cast shadows. He cares that he can see the thread going through the needle. He cares that he can see what he's working on and see the color values appropriately. And he cares that he has enough space to put his things, not space to hide stuff, so it's not in the frame when he's messy. Like, our challenges are maybe a little skewed, maybe a little different.
They're definitely content creation heavy, because we are content creators. But also, I think, like I said, we like to share and pull that curtain back about, like, we're normal people too. We just happen to also have YouTube channels, and like, we struggle. Our struggles are specific with content creation and like making sure that everything looks good, that it is all lit well, that you can hear us well, that you can see us well, like all the things like that. Like that is huge on our side. But I think it's also important to, like, I think what we're talking about is going to be relevant with everybody, because
I'd love to know how it's relevant to you. Like, let us know in the comments down below, because as a quote, I got into the YouTube content creation early on in my quilting journey. And I don't feel like I have had time to grow as just a quilter because my entire journey has played out in social media.
Absolutely.
So I've run the gamut here, and the content creation has always been a part of my quilting journey.
Yeah.
I love it. Jason actually tells me that the reason why he thinks this works for me is because it's able to scratch all of the itches, right? Yes. I get to be creative and play with fabric. I get to be techie and play with the tech stuff. I get to be creative in the tech stuff, and I get to teach, and I get to talk about things, and I get to share knowledge, and all of that culminates into the Sew Becca brand.
Yep.
And that's why he feels like I love it so much, and I've not lost the passion for it, because I get to play with creating, I get to play with techie, and I get to play with teaching. And it's just this vector diagram where all just kind of, anyway, all that to say.
I mean, absolutely. And like going on another tangent, surprise. That is why I do what I do on YouTube.
Yeah.
Is because I get to have that creative outlet that I can really create my own storylines, and I can work on how do I want to, like, if I want to animate something, or if I want to, however that works, I can go in and create the storyline that I want to create and get to play with that. And I'm also get to create with collaborating with other creators such as you, but also I've been wanting to revamp my logo and stuff. And so working with other content creators who are specifically like graphic design and stuff like that. Like, I want to go in and kind of tweak my designs a little bit. So it's fun to be able to pretend in a way, like create and pretend and be creative and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
All right, let's move on. I think we've talked a little bit about all the things that we need to kind of have in our room to do our things. And I know that it's a little biased towards quilters who are also content creators. And in a lot of cases, the content creation is sometimes prioritized above just the creation of something.
Yep.
But there's a few other questions that I think are a lot of fun, and this just pertains to anybody out there, right? So let's talk about the lighter side of it.
Yes.
When you're in your sewing room, let's do like a rapid round robin. Just first thing off the top of your head, what's your go-to drink when you're sewing?
Oh, water. Water.
That.
I've had kidney stones before, and
really?
they suck. They really, really suck. So if I'm drinking something, 99% of the time it's going to be water, because I learned my lesson.
Okay. I will say in the morning, I want a cup of coffee.
I do drink coffee.
I don't always finish that cup of coffee.
Yep.
Some days I do. But then usually the rest of the day, it's usually water, ice water. I will tell you, one of the things I wanted out of the house that we bought was a fridge that had a water dispenser and an ice maker in it in the door. And I remember my realtor saying, you could just buy one of those fridges. I was like, no, the house has to have it already. Anyway, but yeah, so I do drink a lot of water. I like the taste of our water. We're on well. It's filtered. It's good. And sometimes I flavor it with a little herbal tea or something. And that's my go-to.
Yeah.
I'd say
coffee or water for me.
Coffee
usually.
In the morning, water the rest of the time usually.
Yep.
Occasionally I might have a Coke Zero or something, but most of
it's really rare for me to have soda.
Listen, if you ever see like a Coke Zero, I know there have been a couple of times, because people see one video and so they assume that that's your entire timeline, right? There's been a couple of times where there's been a soda can sitting in shot. They're like, you shouldn't drink soda. It's bad for you. You shouldn't drink. And you know what? You're right. But what you also don't know is that can is like 90% full, because I had one sip of it and I didn't have the rest of it. And it might've been sitting there for 3 days. Yeah. I am notorious for getting a can of soda out of the fridge, taking a sip out of it, and just walking away.
For me, if it's a Dr. Pepper, it's gone. Like, that is my weakness.
Even the Dr. Pepper, I love Dr. Pepper.
So good.
But I can't, like, I want the carbonation. I want the hit of carbonation on that first drink, and then I'm done with it. I don't need the rest. My husband can't stop touching them though. So it's just funny. Yeah. All right. What about treats? What's your favorite snack?
Oh gosh. I'm so bad about it too. So I try not to have like everything's easily accessible.
And then he comes to my house.
And then I come to your house, and it's super. Anyways, I love. So my go-to is usually like gummy candy. I love gummy candies. Gummy candies or chocolate. Like that is. Oh, those are my go-tos for sure.
My favorite, like I love all the sweets. I have a really big sweet tooth.
So do I.
I have learned over the past year to have more control and moderation about the sweets.
Yes.
They can be in the space and they don't bother me, and I don't feel like I have to eat all of them, and I don't even feel like I can go. I don't even feel like I have to have one. But I will tell you the one thing that I really do enjoy having is almond M&Ms. I love me some almond M&Ms.
Yeah.
I will pick up a family size sharing bag, and I don't have them every day.
Yeah.
And I can limit myself to just a small handful, and I can set them there, and I enjoy eating them one at a time. There's something about the candy, getting through the candy shell, getting through the chocolate, and then having an almond left over. And I'm like, yes, I'm here for it. So, but my weakness that would make me literally probably eat the whole house out of food would be caramel.
Yes.
Anything with caramel in it, on it, near it, around it, it's done. Yep. It's done.
Caramel's amazing.
It's my favorite.
So good. Yeah. Yeah. I try not to.
Not good to sew with because it can get sticky. But so almond M&Ms or caramel.
Yep.
All right. What about when you're in your sewing room? What are you usually listening to?
It depends. I love listening to the podcast Wait, Don't Tell Me, which is an NPR program. It's a news quiz. If NPR fans out there, you know what I'm talking about. But I'll usually listen. That comes out on Saturday mornings. And so I'll usually listen to that. Or if I'm driving, if I have a long drive ahead of me, I like to put that on. Other times I'm listening to Lady Gaga. Bob Moses is one of my...
He's introduced me to Bob Moses. Love it.
It's so good.
Yeah.
If they put on a concert here in the DC area,
I liked it. It was
I'm
good.
going.
Yeah.
I am going because they came
It's
through.
very chill.
It is. It's very chill, but it's also like the beats that they have are just so soothing, and like their lyrics, I don't know, they're just great. I love Bob Moses.
They kind of remind me a little bit of a band that my sister likes listening to. Not that I think they're necessarily the same, but it's also, they're just not, like, they're really good, but they're not like top 40, right? And I can't remember the name of that band. I want to say, like, it's not Coldplay. It's Cold something. I don't remember. It'll come to me like 20 minutes down the road. I'll be like, oh yeah. Yeah. But yeah, she really liked them.
Yeah. It was interesting because I was introduced to Bob Moses through
now I'm curious.
The show The Catch, which was on ABC. And they played a lot of their songs on that show. And that's how I got introduced to them. And I love them. They're one of my top favorite bands. Otherwise, I'm listening to like techno music. I love good beats. And I love to kind of, do the chair boogie shake, whatever you want to call it. I enjoy sitting there listening to some music that has some good beat to it. A lot of times I'll just ask the helper assistant that starts with S to play. I don't want to say it because I didn't want to activate everybody's device. I don't want to say the A device. I don't want to say the S device. I don't want to say the G device. So I'll listing out all three of the digital assistants. But anyways, I'll usually just ask to the S one to start playing music for me.
I have the name of the band.
What is it?
City and Color.
Oh, okay.
It's Alicia, one of Alicia's. I don't know if they still are, but she loved them. City and Color. Very anyway, okay. Now, I don't want to have to wake up in the middle of the night and be like, City and Color. All right. So, you'll ask one of the assistants to turn on X.
And they'll usually play... I usually ask it to play my library, which is a mix of...
My library is too varied.
Things.
I have had Praise and Worship come on, immediately followed by Eminem.
Yep. That's
so that is my life. I can't ask it to play my library because it doesn't get my vibe, so I have to create playlists because I love music.
Yeah. I
really like one of the things I listen to. Not so much podcasts as much anymore. I like turning on documentaries. Not to watch them, just to listen to them. So I feel like if those were podcasts, I probably would listen to them, but I feel like I just default to, let me turn on the TV show and I'll listen as I work. If I'm in a music mood, I have a couple of different playlists that I like that help match my vibe. In the morning, I really like getting my day started and waking up with chill music. And so I have found like Vitamin String Quartet. Two cellos. They play pop music that's popular, but there's no lyrics, there's no singing, and it's just on the stringed instruments, and it's great background music, and it always seems to soothe me. And I end up humming along and singing along, and it has just a different vibe than maybe the original tune did. And then when I just want to get up and move around, like it just depends on my vibe. Like it might be hits from the 60s, right? We might be going oldies. We might be going into the 80s and 90s pop era. We might be pulling up some Lady Gaga or some Taylor Swift. It just depends on the mood that I'm in.
Oh, Taylor Swift. I forgot about that one.
I love me some Taylor.
So good.
I'm not a Swiftie. I don't know every single song, but the songs that I do know, I do enjoy.
Definitely a Swiftie.
I know
Definitely you are. Swiftie.
I know like 6 songs.
You are also a New Kids on the Block fan.
Oh,
so
100%.
There's a lot of
doesn't need to be sponsored.
Right.
In fact, let's just talk about that for a moment. I am a huge boy band nerd. I love Backstreet Boys, NSYNC. Shout out to Lance Bass. Love him. New Kids on the Block, Belle Biv DeVoe, Boys to Men, like all 98. The list could go on and on and on. But there is an end to that, because after a certain year, it becomes creepy for me to like that boy band. I am not into current day boy bands. Don't talk to me about BTS or any of them. When they become half my age, I cannot like them anymore. It just is wrong. Like, I can't.
I mean, there are plenty of ladies who are going to those concerts, and
not this one.
Okay.
Not this one. No, but and
Fair
some of the reason why I really like those bands is because that's what I listened to when I was a preteen and I was a teenager, right? So I can remember being 13, 14 years old listening to New Kids on the Block, and I can remember being in my early 20s and Backstreet Boys has come out and NSYNC has hit the stage now. And so while I didn't love them because I was a teeny bopper, I was in my 20s, I did love them because my sister loved NSYNC and my cousin loved Backstreet Boys, and they were several years younger than me, and the music was popular and it was fun to sing to and bop along to. But my boy band era definitely was like Belle Biv DeVoe, Boys to Men, ABC, Color Me Bad. So like when I turn that stuff on, I'm not singing it because it's good music. I'm singing it because of the memories.
Right. For sure.
It's nostalgic for me.
For sure. Yeah. NSYNC was actually my first concert to go
Was
to.
it really?
Yeah, it was. NSYNC was my very first concert to go to. I was in...
What was your favorite?
Lance.
Did you know?
No, I had no idea.
Really?
Like, absolutely. So it was... yeah, no, I had no idea. And so when it finally happened, like when he finally came out, it was like, oh... Okay.
This makes sense now.
Sense. Yeah. So no, but yeah. So but yeah, no. I yeah. Anyways,
Lance was Alicia's favorite too.
Yeah. Yeah.
She loved him, and I was just like, okay. And I remember all of the girls from NSYNC were gaga over Justin. They loved themselves some JT, and every time I looked at him, tell me. I'm gonna say this and tell me you will never not see this now. All I could see was Bert from Bert and Ernie.
Oh my God.
You'll never not see it. It's the eyebrows, dude. It's the eyebrows.
Oh my God.
I couldn't not see it. I was like, no,
gosh.
I couldn't get past the eyebrows.
Yeah.
I was like, I mean, and I didn't like, I'm sitting here now like, oh, what am I talking about 20-year-old like that for? But also at the time I was his age.
Right.
Well, I still am.
Yeah.
Like we were the same age, so it was fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I couldn't get over Bert. My sister loved Lance. If I had to pick a gentleman from NSYNC, it would have been Joey.
Joey's
100% Joey.
I've grown to appreciate him even more because like he was on Masked Singer for like the first season, and like my friend is super into him, and so she like I love his goofiness. Yeah. Like he's super goofy. Yep. He's the prankster. Yep. He definitely. Yep. Yeah. I didn't get to talk about my TV shows because I thought we were just going with music.
Yeah, sorry. Like we're going to talk about TV shows. Okay,
cool.
I was just talking about with the documentaries. I just like the audio.
Yeah. Okay.
Like I want to hear. I like to listen to the story.
Yeah.
I'll go down rabbit holes with individual celebrities or historical figures. Yeah. Like I've watched entire series on Abraham Lincoln, and I sit there and absorb them. And I never thought I would be that girl, but I am that girl. But I also go down to the true crime podcast too.
I didn't think so. As a kid, my dad would listen to talk radio.
Yeah.
And I would be in the car and I'm like, ugh,
turn on some music, Dad.
Why are you not listening to music? Like,
and
this is so boring. And now I listen to NPR the entire time in the car.
Yep. I used to only listen to music. Yeah. That was what I would want to listen to in the car. That's what I would listen to wherever I was doing something. I had to have the music going. I had to have I wanted to hear the beats. I wanted to hear the music because music was always very important to me. Yep. And then when my daughter was born, I also like to sing along to the music. Maybe I don't sing well. That's debatable. But she didn't want to hear me sing over top of the songs that she wanted to hear. She wanted to hear the artist sing it.
Yeah.
And so I just got to the point where like, well, if I can't sing over it, then what's the point?
Right.
And so I stopped listening to music because I could never listen to what I wanted to listen to, or I was either not listening to something at all. And so I ended up listening to a lot of audio stuff in the car. And so that's where I'll listen to my podcasts and things like that. So
definitely.
Okay, so we talked about what we're listening to, but there are shows that we turn on while we're creating because we want to see it and hear it.
Yep.
What's that one show for you? What's your favorite?
Oof. I don't have a favorite. I really don't.
Okay, give me a couple.
So a lot of times if I want just background noise, something to turn on and watch, I'll turn on Disney Channel. Guilty pleasure. I will watch Disney Channel all day long. Big City Greens, Moon Girl. Like I will sit there and just, I've seen the shows 20 million times. I know what happens on every single episode, but it's that kind of mindless where I don't have to focus in on the TV and I can just sit and sew.
It's just keeping you company and it makes you feel good.
Exactly. A lot of times I'll watch like Doctor Who. You know, I'm a huge Doctor Who fan. I've enjoyed coming over and watching Masked Singer with you.
Oh, like, that's been a lot of fun. And we totally know who the Buffaloes are.
Great.
In fact, we knew who the ship was and what was the woodpecker. We knew all three of them. Mm-hmm. Well, one of them hasn't been unmasked yet. But we know who they are. But we know
who they are.
We know.
But so
you can't hide.
Masked Singer. What else am I watching? I've Ghosts. Yes,
awesome comedy on CBS.
Watch Ghosts. Love Ghosts. Big Brother. I do watch America's Funniest Videos, but I don't do that while sewing because I want to focus in on what the funny videos are. And sometimes on America's Funniest Videos, if you're not paying attention,
you miss the joke.
You miss it. Yeah. So I do watch that, but that one's usually not while I'm sewing or working on a project. I can't remember what it was. It was at my old apartment. I turned something on the TV that I wanted to watch because I was like, ooh, this season's out. And I started watching it and I caught myself just sitting there staring at the TV. Like I stopped working.
I've seen you do that. When you came to visit last time, we decided we wanted to watch that TV show Ghosts. It's a sitcom. Yep. It's funny. It's hilarious. It's not a ghost show. It's just a show that centers around people who happen to go watch it. It's a comedy. So he was like, oh, I was really wanting to watch it. I was like, well, I haven't seen it either. Why don't we turn it on? And so we turned it on. There were definitely moments where we were in here working and both of us would just stop and be like,
Yep.
We're definitely watching. And so Masked Singer has been one of those where we've turned on in here while we're working. Ghost is another one, but you got to be careful because you end up
You'll
not
get
getting
sucked
something
in.
done.
Yeah, you'll get sucked in and start really watching that. We put on Agatha All Along. The first episode.
We started with Agatha All Along. We got to watch episode 2 tonight before you leave. So Agatha All Along is on Disney.
No,
Disney. It's on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
And we both like the Marvel universe, and we both really liked WandaVision. And so Agatha All Along is centered around one of the characters from that show. So I didn't know it was even a series until I saw it. It's apparently several episodes in, and it is current season. And so we're a little behind.
Well, and they finish on Halloween.
Yeah.
The last 2 episodes
and the episodes drop on Wednesdays. Mm-hmm. So we have time. Like, anyway, we can watch a couple of episodes. Yes. Like, that's really good. Anyway, the whole story is, I keep saying anyway, the whole story is we're like, oh, let's turn this on and we'll get some sewing done.
Yeah.
And I was going to work on the long arm.
Yes.
So I got up, I went over, I started plugging things into the long arm. He came over here with his computer. He sat down, we turned it on. We were like 5 minutes in. And I was like, never mind. Yeah. We turned off the lights, came and sat down in the chair, and both of us were like,
just sat there watching it.
It was so good.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm super excited to continue watching that one.
Yeah. Like we need to hurry up so I can turn that on.
Another one that I like to watch is Crime Scene Kitchen. I like to.
Yeah. I never even heard about that until I visited you, and you're like, oh, let's turn on some Crime Scene Kitchen. I was like, what is Crime Scene Kitchen? I don't know. And I took advantage of your chair. You haven't told the people about the chair yet, have you?
No, not yet.
Spoiler alert. He has an amazing chair.
Yeah.
And he's going to show it on his channel.
Yeah.
And I want one.
Yeah.
I want one. Like, just, just when the video comes out, it will be linked down below. Now you've got to do it.
Right.
Because people are like, I want to know about the chair.
No, it'll definitely, I have to.
It has to soon. It has to be soon.
But yeah, no. So I will put on Crime Scene Kitchen because that's another one that I can pay attention to.
That chair and just was like, this is heaven. Yeah. It was great. Anyway.
Yeah. So I can listen to it, but also work. I'm not 100% focused in on it. I can work and do other things as well. But yeah, it's Crime Scene Kitchen, Doctor Who. I feel like there's more, and I keep running through my head of other Matlock. We need to watch the new one. Yeah. I need to watch that. But other than that, it's when I'm sewing and working, a lot of times it's Disney Channel.
Yeah, for me, it's usually the documentaries. It's ghost stories because I like ghost stories, supernatural stories. I don't want to get caught up in them, so I definitely hit a threshold. Yep. I get to a point where I get scared and I can't watch it for years. And then around this time, it's the fall, it's because of Halloween. I want to be scared a little bit, and so I'll want to watch them, but I don't want to watch the ones that are like, oh, there's definitely ghosts. And I have my boundary. Mm-hmm. I don't want to watch anything about possessions. Yes. I don't want to watch anything about demonic act. I don't want to because that stuff's too real for me and I don't want to go into it here, but I don't want to watch any of that. I just want to watch the ones where oh, did you see that door close on itself?
Can't even do that.
And I'm like oh, but I get my threshold. I hit a threshold with that and I'm like, no, I can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
So it has to be kind of, kitschy.
Yeah.
Is that the right word?
Yeah.
It has to be kind of kitschy for me. I don't want Zach Baggins. I don't want
never liked that show.
I don't want anything like that. I want Ghost Brothers who are making fun of themselves. That's what I let's laugh about it. That's what I want. Let's do that. But anyway, so to be documentaries, maybe occasionally a ghost story, lots of true crime. I don't know why. I like to sit in a room by myself and hear about how somebody got chopped into bits and stored in a freezer.
No thanks. Give me some Hocus Pocus. We watched that the other day.
I did like Hocus Pocus.
We watched that the other day while working.
There's two types of soothing things I'll go to. Reality TV, I'll even put that on in here just to listen to it. But when I go to bed at night, I won't watch any of that stuff.
No.
I don't want to watch the documentary. I don't want to watch National Geographic. I don't want to watch any of that. But what I will watch are all of those soothing things that I think I would equate to your Disney Channel.
Yeah.
It's Friends. Yes. It's the Andy Griffith Show. It's the shows that I watched when I was younger because it's got kind of that comforting feeling, that nostalgic to me.
Definitely.
I signed up for YouTube TV.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing that I'm really enjoying about that is it has a lot of those older episodes on there, and it has an unlimited DVR.
Yes.
So you can record all of the things and watch them whenever you want. But I don't know if you've noticed the theme songs on some of the streaming platforms for those older TV shows, they have changed the theme song for loyalty rights. So not all of them, but it's the same song, but it's somebody else performing it. It sounds different.
I didn't know that.
And for me, part of the soothing thing is the intro and the song. So like you cue up Who's the Boss, and I want to immediately escape back to like being 8 or 9 years old with my mom in the middle of the 80s and hearing Who's the Boss coming on whatever night it was, and knowing that bedtime was around the corner. Or, if you're my age, hearing MASH come on, knowing that it's bedtime because that's the intro song.
Yeah.
I want to hear that. And it's different on some of the streaming platforms, but on YouTube TV, it's the original intro.
There you go.
And it's very soothing to hear. It's like,
Yeah.
Taxi is another one of those intros. And I'm like, I don't really love the show, but my mom did. Mm-hmm. And so when I listen to it, it takes me to that safe space.
Yeah, absolutely. It kind of works that way. So when I was in DFW, a lot of times I would do my grocery shopping after work.
Yeah.
And when I was coming home, I would it would just time out where as I'm leaving the grocery store on the way back to my apartment, I'm trying to think of the name of the show on NPR, but I can't remember it at this moment. Kai Rizdal, if anybody knows the name, put it in the comments down below, because I'm trying to remember the name of that show. But anyways, that show, the intro is like MIDI music, like when they were producing MIDI
Marketplace,
thank you, that's it. Marketplace would come on at 6:30 p.m. and the Marketplace intro is MIDI and like so 90s. It was at the very beginning of when they started composing music digitally.
Awesome.
And I hear that music and I'm immediately taken back to the 90s.
Yeah.
And I can I don't even remember hearing that as a kid, like in the 90s. I don't remember hearing it then.
But it takes you to that time.
Takes me to that place and that time because of the way the music was generated, because of the sound that those MIDI music instruments make. Like, I definitely go back to that time and that place, and it makes me very nostalgic for that kind of time period. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I've got about 4 or 5 viewer questions.
Yeah,
so let's get to these, and then we'll kind of close it out. We save the best for last.
Always.
Is that a Vanessa Williams song? I went and saved the best for last.
Sure.
Speaking of 90s. Anyway, moving along. Okay, so the first question comes to us from Beverly Lusk. She wants to know, how do you set up a sewing room, and how much space might you really need or maybe want? So I think we talked about the want.
Is always more.
It's always more.
Always.
It's always more. The need, though, let's talk about that for just a moment. I think we touched on it a little bit last week. We touched on it a little bit earlier. But if I were to say, Ian, what do you absolutely need, and how much space do you think that takes up? What would your answer be?
My answer would be, you need a sewing machine, you need a pressing space, you need a cutting space, and you need some place to move about that, a way to that's ergonomically good for your body, because you don't want to be like, I've done it before where I've literally had a pressing mat on the floor and like sewn on the table and then like went down and pressed on the floor.
I mean, it was feasible, but not recommended.
No, absolutely. But that was a very temporary solution. It was literally like a day or two that I was doing that. But you just need you need a big enough space for you to be in there. Anything beyond that, like, is extra, because a kitchen table can house all of that and do everything that you need just fine.
Yep.
But is it nice to have the extras? Yes. But just having that kitchen table with a space for pressing, a space for cutting, and a space to sew, that's all you need.
I would say the same thing. Whether that's your kitchen table, a little folding table that you have somewhere else, that's fine. I know I am blessed to have what I have, but absolutely. I have also been that quilter that started off on a very small table because that's all I had.
Yep.
And I was able to work up and out of that. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
And there are some people who like live the RV life.
Yeah.
And so they're literally sewing on picnic tables.
Yes.
Because that's all they have. They have a featherweight machine as their main driver. That's what they use. That's what they work with. And so they'll have their featherweight set up, and they'll have their pressing station and cutting station. And
I think that also, you bring up a really good point. So the featherweights, those are really small portable machines, right? They don't have a very big footprint, but the amount of space and size that you need for just your sewing machine can vary depending on the machine that you have, right?
Absolutely.
I sew on a Singer 301. It's much smaller than my sister's Baby Lock or your Bernina downstairs. So you need a bigger table for your bigger machine because you've got all these bells and whistles with it. I'm sewing on a vintage machine that has a very small footprint. So I could put that on, our door just locked. I could put that on a end table or a TV tray and it would be totally fine. So I think it depends on the person and what you have available, with the insight that you're always going to want more.
Always.
You will always outgrow your space.
Yep.
All right. Let's move on to the next question. This comes to us from Linda Fugate. She's got a few questions in here. But I think I'm going to actually ask all of them. We'll try to get through them really quickly. The first one is, how do you keep your project materials together when you have several projects going all at once? I know my answer. I'll tell you, and then you can answer yours.
Yep.
I have these Sterilite bins. I will link to them in the description box down below. It will be an affiliate link off Amazon. They are meant to hold 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper, but what I have found is those bins, for the most part, hold everything that I need for a project, all the fabric and the pattern. Occasionally, if the project is a bit bigger, I might need 2 bins for that. But what it allows me to do is put everything in a bin with a lockable lid on it, and they stack nicely. And so they stay on my shelf. And I even put a little label on it so I know what project is inside without having to think. And that's how I kind of keep everything together.
Mine's a similar solution. I use the ones from the Container Store that are the 12 by 12 project bins. They are perfect because I can fit a whole puzzle mystery quilt in them and be perfect. Like I actually have 2 of them set up for the puzzle mystery quilt specifically. So when one's done, it's emptied out and the next one goes in. So that's how a lot of times I'm organizing those. I also use project pouches sometimes, the Tula Pink project pouches.
I've got to
say that like 5 times fast. Tula Pink project pouch. But yeah, I'll use those for, especially if I'm taking something somewhere, I'll use those project pouches for that. Otherwise, the only other solution that I would use would be that plastic file bin that I use for the legit kits. So speaking about the topic that you had with your room being oddly shaped, Linda's also asking, do you have any space organization tips for odd-sized room? I can send you a shot of my room with 7 walls. Like, I'm just thinking about, like, is it octagon shape? Like, what is that room? How does
7
that work?
walls. Is there just a random wall in the middle? Like, I don't know.
I don't understand.
I don't know that I can answer how to lay out your room. I will tell you, I am fortunate to have a friend who can visualize that type of solution. And so she has helped me find my storage solutions. But I think we talked on this earlier. My biggest advice is to utilize your wall space and make sure that you are using a trapped space for clothes storage. So for example, I've got the shelves on the wall. We talked about that. But underneath the long arm, I've built out drawer storage because that's footprint that I'm never going to be able to use for anything else. And so now that has turned into basically cupboards and cabinets.
Right. Yep, exactly. And wall space. Use it. Vertical space. Get creative with it.
I'm going to tell you, what not drives me insane. I won't say that because it's your space to do what you want. But I find it funny when I'm talking with friends who have a dedicated quilting space, dedicated space, and they're talking about how it's so messy and there's stuff everywhere. And then you look at their wall, and what do they have on their wall? Rulers. No shelves. The fabric's all over the place. And I'm like, you prioritized hanging up your ruler, and that took up a good, like, in that space where you have that 12 by 12 ruler, you could have put yards of fabric and you could have just hung the ruler on the side of the shelf, right, with a little command hook. So I prioritize your wall space.
Yeah.
Definitely do that.
Yeah.
All right. And then the third question is, what do you do with all the quilts that you make?
Oh,
how do you store them?
That's a good question. So I, since moving to the Virginia area, a lot of them are now on my bed. I am not used to. Yeah, I get cold at night now, which is not something I'm used to, especially coming from Texas, where literally yesterday it was 90 degrees in October.
It was 58 here.
Yeah, so I'm using a lot more of my quilts.
Spoiler alert, I had the first fire of the season in our fireplace.
Yeah.
While I was working from home, and it was great. I am living in slippers,
yep,
hoodies, sweatpants. I've got a hoodie on now. Yep. And I still am cold.
Yeah.
So it's definitely different for you.
Very different. This is a very different experience than what I had in Texas, which I'm great with because I run hot anyways. So it's nice to not feel like I need to run around naked all the time now because in Texas, you can only take off so much clothing.
Remind me to call next time I come over.
But
are you decent?
Here, it's so much nicer. But storing quilts, a lot of times I have those IKEA bags.
Oh yeah,
I use the IKEA bags, and I would put them in my closet, and I would have the quilts folded up and put them in. By the way, if you are taking quilts to a quilter, or if you are needing to transport quilts, those IKEA bags are perfect for quilts. And I'm talking about the big IKEA bags.
Blue ones.
Yeah, the big blue ones. In my case, the big rainbow ones. Those are perfect for transporting your quilts. I bought on Amazon some zippable bags. They're kind of like the size of
what
the
you
IKEA.
Get for sheets and stuff. You could get some of those too.
Bigger than that. But it's like the IKEA bag, but it actually has a zipper that goes all the way around it and a lid on it.
Yeah.
So it's nice, and I haven't started using those yet, but
you should find some of those on Amazon and put the links in the description box.
Definitely. I think they're still in my order.
There's gonna be like 25 links.
There's
go shopping, people. Go shopping.
But yeah, so I'll use that to put my quilts in because it helps protect them from dust.
Yeah.
It helps keep them folded and nice and clean, and don't have to worry about them just sitting out or whatever. So
okay,
yeah.
So that's from Linda. We have another question from Demetria. Is this Covington? I have to span this. She filled out the form. Thank you, Demetria.
Thank you,
Demetria Covington. She says, "What basics do you always use when you're sewing?"
Yep.
I have my go-to is a 6x12 ruler, a rotary cutter, an 18x24. Or 12x18 cutting mat, 12x12-ish or 17x24 wool pressing mat, and then just my thread, my machine. We already talked about our go-to colors of thread and stuff. Yep. So you give me the rotary cutter with one ruler, one mat, an iron, and one pressing surface, and I'm good to go.
Yep. About the same for me. Although I have a set of rulers that go from 12x12 down to
what brand are they?
They're the Tula Pink ones.
Oh, okay.
The largest one is 12.5 by 12.5. The smallest one is I think it's a 4.5 by 4.5 if I remember correctly. I could be wrong, but I'll have those rulers. I use those the most. I'll have the pressing mat. I'll have the cutting mat, which I left my large 12 by 24. Actually, I think it was larger than 12, but 24-inch long by 18 or something wide.
I can help you with that.
Yeah. I'm gonna need a new one.
So I bought a new, when we went to the expo, I bought a new ironing surface from Ironmatique. I'll link them in the description box down below too. I haven't gotten it yet. It was supposed to be here within 2 weeks. I think it'll be here anytime because it's about to writing it 3 weeks.
Yeah.
They ran out. They were going to ship it to me, so I'm waiting to get it. But this thing is amazing, and I will show you why when I get it. And so that wool mat that's behind you, you can actually have it.
Oh, I was talking about a cutting mat because I
have that too.
Okay, all right. Perfect.
I have multiple cutting mats.
But yeah, I actually, because the one I was using was my Cricut mat from long ago, and I actually you have to replace your cutting mats after a while, right? I had to throw that one away because I literally used it.
What size do you use?
It was the 24 by 18,
18 by 24.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll have to, I knew I was going to replace it. I knew it was time to replace it. And so I was okay letting it go and not having to worry about transporting it. So.
You know, I've heard some folks talk about how their cutting mats will last you forever. And I have never found a cutting mat that
this one
forever.
did. This one, I mean,
what brand was it?
Cricut.
Oh, well, okay.
It was Cricut brand.
Okay. Really?
So,
That's hilarious.
And it worked so well.
Was it like the Cricut brand that goes through the machine with the adhesive on it?
No,
Really?
it was a separate cutting mat because at one point they put out cutting mats, like regular cutting mats. I don't know if they still do or not. I would have to go to their website and see. But yeah, it was honestly the best mat that I'd ever had, and it worked so well. And I literally a part of it, I think I had put so many cuts in it that there were like fibers filling up those spaces.
Well, I've had the same thing too, but I will say, and I know somebody's going to have already, like they've already got the keyboard open and they're typing this in right now. I am aware, and I am more aware of it now than I was then because I just dismissed it. When you don't stay on top of your rotary blades changing, you do more damage in the long run for your cutting mat and you reduce its lifespan drastically. And I think the struggle that I have is I often wait until it's hard for me to get through all the fabric before I'm like, okay, I should change the blade. And then when that happens, I do that after this project.
Right.
After this project, right? And then I deal with it, and then I change the blade and I go, oh, I should have done that all along.
Yeah.
But I was taught this when I first started quilting, and I have never heeded this advice, and I really need to. The person that taught me how to start quilting said, listen for the blade to sing when it's going through the fabric.
Oh.
And when it stops singing, replace the blade.
Oh, I never heard that before.
Yeah, because it definitely makes a very unique sound when it's fresh.
Yeah.
Listen to it.
It does.
When that sound stops, replace the blade. The problem with me is not that I can't afford to buy the blades. I can afford to buy the blades, but I feel wasteful.
Yeah.
I feel like that blade still has life in it, so let's use it. It's the same reason I don't want to replace my needles. It's not because I can't afford the needles. I can, but I feel like it's sewing, so let's use it until it don't work.
No. I that was one of the things that my quilter Nancy taught me.
Yeah.
Was replace the needle.
I do. I am better with the needle because I have trained myself. After X number of bobbins, the needle gets replaced, even if it appears to be sewing fine.
Yep.
The rotary blade, I need to continue working on. I am better than I was last year. I hope to be better next year. I just it feels wasteful.
I have a whole container of Smets needles.
Yeah.
And because my quilter, she has
Nancy Houston, the very thoughtful quilter. We'll link her down below.
Yeah, check her out. She's awesome. She's not an affiliate, but she has she can buy stuff wholesale. Thank you. She's a wholesaler, and so she was like, "What needles? What needles do you use?" And she bought. I paid her, of course, but she bought the big. I don't even know how many 100 pack of needles. And I am so glad that I haven't even finished it. Like I still have needles in it, but it is so nice to sit down and use a brand new needle that goes cleanly through the fabric. And
so let's just talk about that. They're Schmetz, but what type of needle, what size? What
the 80 needle,
8012,
8012 needle.
Is it universal? Is it Microtex? Is it?
I don't
so
know
I like using, I have two needles that I use. In the Juki, I always use Oregon HAXL, whatever. When you look at I'll link it down below, but it's a specific high speed needle for the Juki. That's what I use there. And then in the Baby Lock or the Singer, I use Schmetz Microtext size 8012. I do keep a stash of 9014 for when I just need something a little bit bigger. Yeah. But 8012 is my go-to. I use it for everything. And I always use Microtext because I was taught when I started working with batiks that you ought to use the sharp needle for batik fabric. It got in that tighter weave better.
Right.
And it works just fine on quilting cotton too, so I just use it for everything.
I feel like it might be Microtech, but I don't even remember. It probably is.
Yep. Anyways. So Demetria also asked a couple other questions. Looking back on your transitions, do you have any regrets or revelations? Becca, you were in a hotel for 3 months. Ian, you are just now getting set up with this transition. What is your number one regret and your number one revelation?
My number one regret is that this is going to sound horrible. It really is. When I was packing up my fabric, I had the really good fabric. We had the Tula Pink fabric. And then I had the everyday fabric that was like the solids, the Joann's fabric, the, miscellaneous fabric that, whatever. I need to be more, I need to get rid of the fabric if I'm not using it more. I don't know how to say this exactly, but like...
You need to Marie Kondo your stuff.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. If it's not bringing you joy, you need to let it go live its life somewhere else.
Right. Because I have a box of fabric in my apartment that I haven't unpacked yet that is... I don't want to call it the not good fabric because it's good fabric.
It just doesn't bring you joy.
It doesn't bring me joy.
Yeah.
And I don't want to use, like, I'm just like, okay, over it. Or like I bought 5 yards of a fabric for a project and I used 3 of the yards, but I still have 2 yards left over of a solid that I'm just kind of like,
sure. I think that's great. And I do that repetitively throughout the year. I do it a couple times a year.
Yeah.
I go through every piece of my fabric. And if it doesn't bring me joy anymore, I pull it out to either sell it, destash it, pay it forward, donate it, whatever, so that it can bring somebody else joy. Right. Because because it's not my yum doesn't mean it's not somebody else's.
Right. I feel bad. I guess what it is like, I feel...
Your tastes change.
They do. But also I feel bad, like, especially solids, because solids can go with anything and you can use it for any project. And I do find myself, especially like Hemingway pouches or bags or whatever, I use it as the lining of those. And so I find myself using it, but it's not a project that comes up all the time, right? Like, I don't know.
Okay. Any regrets? That seems to be a revelation. Any regret?
Not necessarily regrets. I don't really have any regrets with anything. Because we're always using our space the best way that we know how at the time. It may be, we might find something that works better.
Yours hasn't been set up yet.
That one.
So you don't really you're still unpacking. So maybe you don't have
but also, thinking back on my other spaces.
Sure.
I'm thinking like, is there any regrets from previous spaces? And I don't really have any. I guess the only thing that I could think of is like when I was living with my roommate, not having a way to put the same things in the same area and having to split it up. But that's not really a regret because that was a necessity at the time.
Okay. I think for my regrets, I do have one regret for this space, and it's something that I can recover from. I wish that when I mapped out the room, I was so strategic and so focused on my desk being in that spot. I knew I didn't want cords to come out from the wall. I knew this. And so I planned and specifically asked the electrician to put an outlet in the floor.
Yep.
Smartest thing I will have ever done. My regret is I did not do that for the long arm. It didn't even occur to me. And I remember when I was talking with the contractor, they're like, you don't want one over here too? And I was like, no, that's fine. It can just be in the wall. And they're like, okay. And I wished they would have been like,
are you sure?
Are you sure? Because now you're going to have a cord that you could trip over. I wish they would have pushed that envelope just a little bit more because now I'm at a place where I'm like, I really would like to hire an electrician to come in and put that because I've got a cord that runs from the back of the long arm to the wall and I don't like it.
Yeah.
Like I spent all this time. That's my one regret.
That's fair.
But I was even strategic. Like if you look around my room, I've got outlets up at the top of the walls because I knew I was going to cover up walls.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, the shelves are going to go here. I can't get to the outlet, so I want the outlet up.
Yep.
I didn't think about that one. That was my one regret.
That's fair.
My revelation is you have more than you realize you do.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I probably don't need to buy fabric for a number of years, but I'm going to.
Again, we talked about it last time. There's going to be lines that come out that are not available after a certain amount of time. So yeah.
And they're going to be stupid price. All right. Last viewer question. And it's a series of questions. Some of them we've already answered. So I'll just read the whole comment and we'll just talk about a couple of them. This is from D Adams 512. She says, well done, guys. This was a comment on our last video. I enjoyed listening to this while sewing this morning. Question for you. Considering your different styles, what is on each of your dream to-do list and what new skills interest you and or what dream quilt pattern would you tackle now that you're an experienced maker? What other hobbies do you have that might take you away from sewing? And when you're not alone, not making YouTube content, what does your room sound like? We talked about that. Most times I have something playing, but sometimes, not usually, but sometimes with serious concentration, I have to have a quiet room. Congrats to you on your success in this new channel. So let's break that down just a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you have a dream list, a dream item, one thing that's been on your bucket list that you want to do one day?
Well, I just finished Gravity earlier this year.
Yeah.
And Gravity was one because I saw it when it originally came out.
Yep.
And that was even before I was sewing and became a quilter. Gravity was a project that I loved. I saw it hanging up at the state fair.
Sure.
I still remember to this day. I see it in my head. And I was like, I want to do that. I want to make that project. And I'm very lucky that I did get to make that. So that one was kind of the ones that I checked off my bucket list, I guess.
Okay.
Other than that, I just kind of like see things that I like, and
there's
make it then. Yeah, and I
but
make it then.
nothing's outstanding.
Yeah, nothing else is really like, oh my gosh, I have to make this before I die. Like okay. it's a lot of, of course I want to work on a place for everything bag. That's one that I do.
We are going to do that. Like we're going to take a long weekend, take a holiday weekend. We're going to get the materials, and you and I are going to make that bag.
Yep.
And I am going to be one step behind you because otherwise I will be bald by the end of it and you might be dead because I might have to kill someone.
Yeah.
I can't understand her patterns, but when I see someone do it, so maybe that's one that we'll get the pattern, but then we'll also pay the $5 for the course.
Oh, for sure.
For the video.
The videos are so helpful.
Yep. Okay. So that's your to-do item, right? Your dream item.
Yep.
I think for me, my dream item, I would put it in the same category. My friend's mother was a very accomplished quilter. She lived in Tennessee and she had made this beautiful cathedral window quilt.
Yeah.
And when I first started sewing, I would look at that and I would just sit in awe at all the colors. And I'm putting a picture of it up here on the screen before you. I talked about this in my cathedral window video. I wanted to make one of those quilts. I had been inspired by that for years. And I kept telling myself, not now. Not now, not now. Not because I didn't think I could, because there are so many different ways that you can make a cathedral window.
Right.
And if you make it big enough, it is almost foolproof. But I wanted to make it small and I wanted it to be meticulous. And in my head, it was always a white cathedral window quilt with pops of jewel tone batiks spread out. And I am happy to say that I finally got to do that this year. And it was entered into the state fair and it won an honorable mention. And I still don't have my ribbon here because I'm waiting for it to get here.
Yeah.
But I did get to check that off my bucket list. So I don't think there's anything else on my bucket list. I'm very much like you. I'll see something. I'm like, okay, I want to do that one day.
Yeah.
But when I get that, it's like, okay, I want to do it and I'm going to do it. So here, let's do this.
Right.
But there's nothing out there that's like, if I don't do this, I won't feel accomplished as a quilter.
Yeah.
Because I just do it if, you know what I mean? So
totally.
What new skills, do you have any new skills that interest you? No?
I like, as I see them, I'm like, let's do that. Let's try that.
I would like to tackle, but I have to want to. I would like to do more hand embroidery.
Yeah.
I really do enjoy doing that, but I also don't like sewing by hand.
It's the
worst. I don't know, like, it's kind of like one of these things where I'm like, I want to be that girl that's sitting in a chair with a hoop and a piece of fabric, and I'm working some wonderful, some pearl cotton in through the fabric, but also I don't want to do that. So like, it's a catch-22 for me. It interests me, but and I have a drawer full of embroidery projects that I could work on if I just pull them out. I just don't want to.
Yeah.
I would rather quilt. So I will say the one new skill that does interest me is the pro stitcher on the long arm.
Oh yeah, for sure.
100%. Yeah. That is my, like, I am here for it. So, since our last episode, I did receive Pro Stitcher. It has been installed, and I have been feverishly working on this thing every single day. I've booted up Pro Stitcher, and I have learned a new thing. And this is where I was meant to be. Yeah. This is where I have been building towards. This is where I have been going, and I am here for it. Let's go.
I am excited to learn about it and do a little bit, because I did do a quilt with it. I did. Or 2 quilts, actually.
Yes.
I did 2 quilts with Pro Stitcher, and I just received some more that I'm going to be working on and such. So
I just got a shipment of batting, so let's go.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, we got a weekend planned for us.
Right?
All right, I think there's a third question in here. What other hobbies do you have that take you away from sewing? Making YouTube content.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
I'm just going to put this out there. I don't know if you get this question, but I frequently get this question. I want to start a YouTube channel. Okay, I get quilters to ask, I want to start a YouTube channel. What should I start? And my number one answer to them is always, why? Why do you want to have a YouTube channel? Is it because you like making multimedia content? Great. Is it because you want to work in like that, you want to make that a business? Okay, that's fine. Know your why, first of all, but also understand that making YouTube content, if you are serious about it and you want to grow, it takes a lot of time.
It does take a lot of time.
It takes a lot of time. You're feeding the beast. Like it's a second job.
It's its own business. 100%.
There are times where, so to make the channel successful, and I'll use air quotes because the definition of success varies depending on who you are, right?
Big time.
But to make a channel that focuses around quilting content, there are sometimes weeks, maybe months, that are going to go by where I am making something specifically for a video.
Yep.
That's it. That's it. I'm not making it for me. I'm not making it because I'm excited about something. I'm making it for a video or a series of videos. Yep. Now, I try to merge that by making sure that I am making content for videos only for the quilts that I want to make, right? Yeah. I'm not going to make a video for a quilt that I don't want to make.
Exactly.
So that's how I kind of balance that a little bit. But after you've recorded the video, you have to edit it.
Yep.
You have to plan it out. You have to source it. You have to get the content out there. Then you got to advertise it. You've got to push it. You've got to do all the other things. Yep. And then you have to answer the questions, right? Because what good is it to put a video out there and just be like, nah, I'm not going to talk to you about that. You're going to have questions. You're going to have comments, and I want to engage with you too. Right. And then also feeding the beast, I need to, and I keep saying feed the beast, but that's what it is.
It is.
Right?
It is,
like the live streams, you got to prep for theirs. Anyway, I would say
it's a second job.
It is.
A second
that
job,
is the number one thing that takes me away from sewing.
Yeah.
Is making sewing videos.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. When I was doing card making, I would do it usually was a process of an hour to record, an hour to edit, and then an hour, 30 minutes to an hour to do all the post work of making sure that I get all of the description up, the tags, all that extra stuff that I needed to include. I had to put all of that in as well. So it was usually like a 2 to 3 hour process for everything.
Yep. I definitely agree. Mm-hmm. But that being said, I love it.
Yeah.
And I would not have it any other way.
It helps, like we talked earlier, it helps with my creative outlet, being able to have all of that out there and be able to create the stories that I want to create the movies that I want to create, and all that kind of stuff.
It's part of your creative journey.
It is.
I like being able to create digitally. That allows me to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know there are folks out there that have YouTube channels that are like, they're not into creating the digital content. They're doing that because they want to create a community, or they want to just share their passion with the world. And those are absolutely appropriate reasons to create a channel, just to talk to people, just to build the community, just to share your passion for quilting. Do you absolutely do that? That's part of the reason. That's part of my why I want to do it. But also, it allows me to teach. Yeah. It also allows me to create digitally. Yeah. It also allows me to play with tech.
Yes. Yes.
So, yeah.
100%.
Well, Ian, do you realize we have been sitting here talking for a little over 2 hours?
That's awesome.
Holy cow.
This is going to be a very long episode, everybody.
Oh, well, yeah. Thank you for sticking here if you watched all of it. And by the way, can we just acknowledge what is happening over there?
I've been trying so hard not to crack up.
My sister is standing on the other side of the French door. I want to go take a photo.
Here, I'll take a photo. You keep talking.
My sister is standing on the other side of my glass door, blowing blowfish faces. That's the only way I can describe it at us, and making all sorts of distractions to try to get us to laugh. Yep. I think she's trying to get us to crack up in the episode. So
absolutely.
When she watches this, which we know she's going to do, at 2 hours and 10 minutes into the video, she'll be like, that's where I made them laugh.
Oh my goodness.
I just can't with her. And now her face is going all over the YouTube world. That's what she gets.
I hope you have some Windex over there. All right. So
anyway, I think it's time to close it out.
I think it is.
I think she wants to come in here.
I think she does.
She's just as bad as the dogs. Anyway, Ian, it was a pleasure talking to you.
Always a pleasure with you, but we also want to make sure to hear from them out there. Yeah. Don't forget, guys, you can go on to sewbecca.com and fill out a form on if there are topics that you want. If there are topics,
they're already filling out the forms.
Apparently, they're filling it out this second. If there are topics that you want us to talk about, or if you have comments that you want to share with us, please feel free to do so on the sewbecca.com website. You can also, of course, leave comments here on YouTube.
Absolutely.
Please leave us comments. We love hearing from you.
Listen, I just got to tell you, thank you so much for making that very first episode so successful.
Yes.
Our first episode on this channel as of tonight, hit 11,000 views.
It's amazing.
Which, I mean, we both have videos that have more than that in the number of views, but for a channel that is brand new with one video on it, we are over 1,400 subscribers, which is not a big deal for your channel or mine,
right?
Comparatively, but for a week into this venture,
it's amazing.
You guys are knocking it out of the park.
Thank you so much.
We are so close to being able to monetize this channel, which is going to help with those expenses of buying the things that you need to get yourself set up. So the best way to support us, check out Ian's channel down below. Lots of content there for you to watch. Check out my channel down below. Lots of content there for you to watch. But also, don't forget to watch the podcast episodes. Subscribe to this. And if you like what we're doing here, leave us that feedback. Give us a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe bell. Hit the subscribe button. Ring the bell for notifications. Leave a comment down below. And reach out to us if you have topics or content you would like us to cover in a future episode.
Yep.
And with that, I've got to go deal with a sister.
Oh my
gosh.
Thanks everybody for watching, and have a great evening or afternoon or morning.
She is getting more audible. The longer this goes, the more you're hearing the raspberries, and I don't know if it's being picked up in the microphone, but I think she's resorted to a 5-year-old.
See you next time, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. I gotta pee.
It was still recording when you said that.